Now over to Tessa.
Thanks, Tom. Well, Denmark Vesey is a name that today, nearly 200 years after his death, still evokes a great deal of emotion. Accused and convicted of planning a slave rebellion right here in Charleston, he was executed in 1822. And in today's Author Spotlight, we welcome K.F. Jones. And Mr. Jones, you know, some people may not realize that Denmark Vesey lived right here in Charleston, downtown, on Bull Street. Why such the interest, especially writing a book about him? Why did you undertake this?
Well, as I said before when we were talking, I felt it was an interesting question of why he did this. He lived in a relative comfort in Charleston, and it's just a fascinating dilemma. Why he would undertake such a thing. And in terms of his relevance today. Generally speaking, his legacy, the legacies of his time, certainly with us throughout America.
Right.
And specifically, as you know, they've raised a monument to him recently here in Charleston. And so, actually, my book is, of course, a novel. And so, my book, the novel Do Unto, Denmark Vesey's story, is really an adventurous, coming-of-age love story, complete with 18th century equivalent of car chases and gunplay and so forth. And I really take liberties with the fact that we know such little about him, even though there were 7 biographies about him. The most recent one was published in September. And there have been plays and countless articles and so forth. But again, having said all that, we really know very little about him.
And what gives you permission to really write in another voice?
Right, well, that's a great question. It's a great question, one that was asked of me at a recent book signing by a member of the audience. And I think the answer to that is William Shakespeare. It's Mark Twain. It's Baby Moore Campbell. It's, and more recently, Henry Louis Gates Jr., who was asked a similar question of late and said, well, of course it's appropriate to be able to write in that voice.
All right, well, that's wonderful. Now, would you say, would people come away knowing more about him, less about him, or answering or being able to answer the question, terrorist or hero?
Well, you know, that question's posed in articles of late, in the New York Times, for example, and in the Charleston newspapers and so forth. And to my mind, the question of terrorist or hero is neither. Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. Republican presidential Barry Goldwater said that. Denmark Vesey did what he did to help others, including his family and friends who were being separated, torn apart, sold off. So if pursuing the escape of one's family from tragic consequences is heroic, then he's a hero. On the other hand, his plot did involve violence. And yet, if an American man were to try to have his family escape from tragic consequences.
I was going to say, you can kind of think, would that sort of gets you to thinking, what would you do in that situation?
Certainly. Would you label such a man a terrorist? I don't think so. And indeed, for example, our own founding fathers were labeled terrorists by the British. And our own Patrick Henry famously said, give me liberty or give me death. Exactly.
All right. Well, Mr. Jones, where can people get your book? Because I know you're going to be doing book tours, and you're going to be speaking to groups, and of course you're looking forward to the big
New York City Expo.
New York City Expo.
May 29th. That's right. That's right. Well, indeed. Thanks. Obviously, it's available online. It'll be available in bookstores and in libraries in early May.
Well, awesome. Thank you for spending some time with us. I can't really wait to read it. It sounds very intriguing, written from this particular aspect.
Well, Tessa, thank you so much for having me.
Our pleasure. Thank you. All right. More after the break, so stay with us.